Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Friday webinar for February. As you can see on our screen, we're going to be talking about how to feel your best for your conference, and that can be any conference coming up or even NWACUHO, which is in a few weeks. So hopefully we'll see a lot of you there. Just as a few reminders, there's the chat function within YouTube. It's just on the side, and you can go ahead and submit those. As long as you're logged in to a Google account, we will get you set up on that and answer any questions that you have during the presentation. But at this point, I'm going to have our presenters, what I'm presenting as well. And as you can see on the bottom of your screen, that we're trying out this captioning tool within YouTube and the Google Microsoft world. So we'll try to see if that's working out and see if we can keep using that for the future. But we'll have our presenters go ahead and kick us off.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Firestone. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am one of the assistant directors in residence life at Washington State University.
My name's Andrew Beck. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm the coordinator for leadership and diversity initiatives at Washington State University.
And my name is Nichole Goodwin. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I am also an assistant director in residence life at Washington State University.
And today, as Andrew mentioned, we're talking about how to feel your best at your conferences. And so just to give you all a little bit of context of where we are coming from with our conference attendance, we just wanted to briefly share that across the three of us, we have attended NASPA annuals, we've attended NWACUHO nationals, we've attended regional conferences for both NWACUHO, NASPA, and other regional conferences. We've attended various leadership institutes and specific institutes around various topics.
Yep, some specialized things like Social Justice Training Institute. I've attended the residential curriculum, which has a new name that has just escaped me at this moment. So we've done some very broad topics and also some specialized ones.
Great. So just a quick overview. The first half of our webinar will just be some general conference food for thoughts, kind of tips. We know that everybody is different in how they approach conferences and the advice that you give. And so we're sharing from our perspective and our experiences attending all of those various conferences. And so we will share some of our philosophy around approaching conferences, attending them, and kind of being successful and confident during those conferences, and a little bit of how to be staying connected after the conferences. And then the second half of our webinar, we will talk a little bit more specifically about what you can expect from NWACUHO's conference that's coming up in 2 weeks. And we'll go a little bit into detail about some of the specifics you will see if this is your first time attending, or maybe you haven't taken advantage of the opportunities that NWACUHO has during our conference. Let's get started.
Okay, so the first thing we wanted to cover is knowing why you're attending the conference. As we shared, we've been to a bunch of different conferences within our time in the field. And I think for each one, there's a different reason that you're going. So we want you to take a look at what conferences you're choosing and what you're really looking to get out of them. So are you attending because someone has encouraged you to, which is great, get yourself out there and experience a conference? Are you looking to get some tangible job skills or knowledge out of this? Have you moved into a new position? Have you taken on some new roles at work, and you want to get some more information about what other people are doing and how they're accomplishing the things that you're striving to accomplish? Are you looking to get more involved in the region? This is a great way to get your face out there, get to know kind of the inner workings of the region and how you can get involved in different ways. And then are you job searching and you'd like to work on your networking, get some feedbacks? Maybe you have a mentor that's going to the same conference and you want to meet up with them. Maybe you just want to ask people what job searches are like for them and what things they find important in their job searches. This is an excellent time to set up some of those more informal meetings with individuals. As you're looking at that, some people will find having goals for their conferences is really important for them. So figuring out what do you want to get out of this conference? So maybe it's, I want to ask a question during a session. I've always been kind of nervous about doing that. So I want to be able to ask that question. Maybe it's, I want to work on my networking skills and I want to talk with more people. So I'm going to make it a goal to talk to 2 new people that I haven't met before. Maybe there's someone at the conference that you're attending that they are the person that you just look up to. You say, I want to introduce myself to them and I want to meet them. So looking at some of those goals, but it's okay if those goals are things that you maybe don't meet. Conferences are challenging. It's a great time to challenge yourself, but don't feel like if you're not getting anything out of the experience, or maybe you're not meeting your goals, that you're still not accomplishing something. So if for some reason, like I said, you don't meet those goals, take a chance to reflect on that and figure out, maybe that's a goal I won't meet today, but maybe it's something I want to set in the forward. Or maybe this is a different type of conference and I need to adjust what my goals are.
And sorry, everyone, I've just been noticing we had some weird technology things going on. So if we missed anything, or if we cut out at any point, can you just let us know in the chat, and we can try to recover or go over anything else that you may have missed during that time. But I'm going to keep going until someone says that it was off for us. So we're going to go ahead and talk about networking. So a lot of times when I go to conferences, I'm typically going with other people, whether that's in my department, or I just went to the NASPA Strategies Conference, which was a bunch of people from my institution, which was really cool to go to, with a bunch of people that were in different departments. Or you might even have friends across the region, other people that you met in grad school or during your time at an institution that you might have moved to different places that you're now meeting up for again. When I'm there, and I find myself in the big settings that if I don't know anyone, especially the first time I'm at my conferences, I haven't gone to them. A lot of times before, I'm usually the person who's like in the corner by myself, not talking to a lot of people, because that's kind of my first mode of conversation with people. But so if you're ever in that situation, try to pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone maybe a little bit, and trying to go say hi to someone. Or maybe you're the person who just walked in or just got into the conference area and you see that person that's by themselves. Maybe you should go up and introduce yourself and get to know them and try to make them feel more comfortable. Or you can start that group and then you hopefully attract other people with that as well. And then one thing that I usually like to do, and usually it's like Tiffany and I, having a wing person or someone else that might know more people at the conference that they could introduce you to, or it feels more comfortable that the two of you together. Just make sure you're maybe not like always in conversation with each other, but maybe you're staying by each other and then talking with other people that are also there, and trying to get around those other people. And then some of the other parts we want to talk about was presenters. I think a lot of times we have a lot of great presenters that you go hear presentations from and then want to have that information afterwards. So going up and getting their business card, maybe asking if they would email you the presentation, or following up and just saying like, hey, that presentation was great and I really enjoyed it and I would like to hear maybe more. Maybe we can get like a virtual coffee sometime and just chat, or over the phone if you have more questions that came up after the presentation. And then, setting up meetings with other professionals that are attending. So if you know that there are those friends that you had, or there are other people that you really want to get to know within the region or within the group of people that are going, setting up that time outside of the conference or even during the conference, to go get a coffee, take a break, and just, relax and talk about what you've got to so far, or what you've really enjoyed throughout the conference.
Yeah, I think what we really wanted to stress, excuse me, is that networking sometimes sounds like this large, nebulous, overwhelming idea. And I subscribe to the fact that I'm an introvert. I don't necessarily thrive in large situations with a lot of people I don't know. And so these tips, hopefully they help you find a way to network with other people and meet other people in a manageable way. So there isn't one way to network. There isn't one way to meet other people. And so using some of those skills outside of just that, I'm going to collect X amount of business cards, or I'm going to, talk to every single presenter. We want you to see something in a manageable and meaningful way for yourself. And maybe that is just going up to someone who's standing by themselves and introducing yourself and saying, hi, I'm new to this conference. I'm new to this region. where do you work? And, are you a presenter? Sometimes you'll see ribbons on people's name tags, and you can ask them about that. Oh, I see that you have a presenter ribbon on there. What presentation will you be given? Sometimes if you wear that new or first time attendee ribbon, other folks might introduce themselves to you, and that's really them reaching out to make sure you feel comfortable.
So when you look at a conference, go to a conference, or thinking about it, you'll see the schedule come up, and there's a plethora of different sessions happening. Most often there are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different sessions that you can go to within one time block. So it's super important for you to take some time to figure out what sessions you want to attend. So one thing that when we put our brain trust together and thought about it is not going to sessions with all of the people that you came with. This is an awesome opportunity if you are attending with people from your department or from your institution to kind of spread yourselves out and learn more things that you can come back and share not only with the people at that conference, but also with your department. So it's really looking at those resources and spreading them where you can to get the most bang for your buck at a conference. So when you're looking at them, you'll want to read the title. That's what's going to draw you in first. You'll want to look at the learning outcomes. Sometimes you'll want to look at the presenter or the institution that they're at. If you're looking for a specific, maybe about private institutions, large public institutions, those that are affiliated with something specific. Sometimes that can really help you, especially if you're at one of those institutions, to get tips from an institution that's similar to yours. So picking topics, you can pick a range of things that you know, or maybe something that you don't know. So if you know that you have a specific job, task, or whatever it is in your department, and there are sessions about that, definitely go to those. Those are the best time to learn about those things. But I also challenge you to look at some of those things that maybe you've heard about. Maybe you've had an experience and it wasn't the best experience. You want to learn some more. Maybe it's something that you have seen popping up in social media or on the Chronicle or things like that. And you're like, I want to learn some more about that. So we challenge you to go into that and see kind of what's happening with that. Also looking at, if you're the only one attending from your department, ask those people around you, hey, what things are you working on? What initiatives are the department or the institution looking at that maybe if there are some sessions, I can attend those and grab some information for us to help with those conversations once I come back. So you'll want to, again, it's looking at gaining skills in the areas that you want to develop that directly apply back to your role in department, and then attending and learning new content. And it can also help you develop partnerships across your department or organization, or with institutions that may be close to you. I know that a lot of times I'll look at institution size and I'll be able to call someone up and say, hey, remember when we went to this and we went to this presentation? Can we talk a little bit more about some of the things that were happening there? Or, hey, can I bounce some ideas off of you? And then when you're looking at your sessions, have a realistic expectation. They are only a set amount of time. So there might be something very specific that you're looking to get out of the session, but that might not be what the presenter is presenting to or what the room needs at that time. So being realistic with those expectations and not being super upset about something like that. Maybe that's something where you can connect with that presenter after to dig a little bit deeper or ask about something that maybe didn't get brought up in the presentation. So I definitely use those opportunities to build those connections with the presenter.
Next, we're going to talk about taking advantage of those informal spaces that are at your conferences. So if there's any official meetup spaces, I know when I went to NWACUHO a few years ago, when we ever in Seattle, whenever we had conference stuff that was outside the building, there was like a meetup spot that people would take, and that was like a really great area for me to go to and connect with other people because I was the only one from my level, or the people I knew were not around at all times. And so it was a great time to get to meet other people from all over the country and all over the world, really. And then meet and greets or socials. It was also a great time. A lot of times there's either affinity spaces or there's other specified spaces for meet and greets, whether it's, new to places or your SHO or your mid-level, and those are great times where you can bounce ideas off people and see what they're doing at their institutions and see if you can't maybe make some of those relationships that you can take back when you leave the conference and then meet up with those people virtually and try to make your institution better for having that networking done. Meals also a great time, whether the meals are provided by the conference. Sitting with different people or being at different tables with people that you didn't come with is a great time to meet everyone. Or if people are meeting up to go off site to get meals, that's also a great time to get the time to go with them to wherever you're going to eat. You get to chat with them then come back, however that works out for you. Being okay with the awkward introduction. This is something that I've always struggled with and I've always tried to get over, and I never know how to introduce myself without being awkward about it. So I'm just trying to embrace it more recently. But being okay with saying hi first, with getting to know someone, like, hey, how's your day going? And just starting off with those and maybe asking some of those questions that will lead to some connections later. Social media, I know tweeting is still very alive in the SA field. But it's a great way to either, you are taking notes for yourself or you're interacting with the group in that capacity. Ways of keeping track of what happens during sessions, whether you want to go look back on your tweets later or other social media where we put tweeting down. So that's what I'm thinking about in my head. But it's, a way to connect with people face. There's a lot of people I've never met, but for some reason I'm always reading their Twitter because of the VPSA at some school. And I just really like what their messaging that they're having. And that's something that maybe one day I'm going to run into them and be like, oh my goodness, like you're the person, like I know you don't know me, once again, going back to that awkward introduction, but I follow you all the time on Twitter and I think what you have to say is great.
I think with the meals and looking for meetup spaces at some of the larger conferences, you'll find that they'll actually set up spots for people to meet that maybe didn't come with other people or are looking to meet other people to those non-provided meals. So I know when I've attended NASPA, they've had specific, hey, we're going to meet at 6 p.m. at this location. Anyone who wants to go find food, meet up here, and then people can branch off for there. So that's a really good way to find some people to eat with without having to go up to several individuals and say, hey, what are you doing for food?
And pre-conferences are also a great time to, if you've sat next to someone that you don't know, maybe ask them to go get a meal at some time during the conference and meet back up with them, see how they're doing, and just make those connections right away in that smaller setting, granted that you have the funds to go to any of the pre-conferences.
Also, tying back to the idea of being a wing person, if you are at a conference with a delegation of your institution and you all are grabbing meals, but it's okay if other people join, if you've met someone along the way and they're the only one from their institution, reaching out and saying like, hey, do you want to join us for lunch? So sort of that asking and introducing yourselves and going to meet with people for lunch that you don't know, but also offering that out if that's something that you're able to do.
So energy management is definitely a big topic that we talked about. So when you go to conferences, there's lots going on and there are lots of things to do. You'll be interacting with a lot of people and it can definitely be tiring. So if you're feeling that your tank is reaching that empty, or maybe there isn't a specific presentation during a session that is of interest to you, it's okay to use that time block in a different way. It's okay not to attend every single event or session in the schedule. Maybe this is a great time for you to meet up with someone for coffee. Maybe it's a time where you need to put in your headphones and have some time alone and away from people. Maybe you need to take a nap. Maybe you want to just do some people watching. Maybe it's a time to do some sightseeing in the host city. You are kind of the guide of your own adventure at conferences. So we want you to know that it's okay to use that time differently. And as Tiffany said before, conferences look different for everyone and how they navigate them. We also want you to drink water and hydrate, and don't forget to eat or drink. You know how to fuel your body best, and you know what you need to feel your best and to be able to engage in the way that you want to engage. Conference host sites are sometimes very expansive. So I know that a lot of times I do much more walking than I would on a normal day. So I need to drink more water to make sure that I'm hydrated. I also wanted to touch upon if you are someone that has a dietary concern and you are at a provided meal and you're not seeing anything that meets what you need, feel free to ask someone. Please ask someone so that you are making sure that you are providing yourself the fuel that you need for that day. People are not going to be offended if you're asking for it. Sometimes I know we ask for dietary restrictions or concerns on a lot of conference applications, but sometimes those things get missed or they don't get put out at that time. Please don't feel bad about asking for that. We want you to eat and drink and need what you need. We also want you to take some time to socialize with people outside of the formal conference session. A lot of them will have alcohol available. It's okay to drink in these spaces. Just make sure that you know how comfortable you are in these situations and knowing what your limits are. For me, I really like to read the room when I'm there. So it might be something where, I choose not to have alcohol just by how I'm feeling with it. Or it might be something where I'll have a few drinks. It just really depends on, like I said, what you're comfortable with and kind of what the surrounding is like.
There was two things that came in real quick on the chat.
Oh.
Laura said, thank you for mentioning those dietary needs. Great point. Laura's our current technology director, and I believe still at Oregon State University. And then Laura also had a piece of advice for meals on your own. Laura said that they like to put on Twitter or the conference app and try to find other people who are alone that wants to go, who want to go get meals together. And Laura said that's some of the best connections of meals that they've had.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Laura also just put on here, also know what your institution or supervisor expects around alcohol, both consumption and purchase during the conferences, which are great pieces of advice. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So going back to the energy management piece, take some time to reflect at the end of each day, even if it's just a couple minutes. What went well? What maybe didn't go so well? What are some things that maybe you need to change up for the next day? Who did you find connections with? Is there a way that you can send out a quick message to say, hey, it was great to meet you. I am looking forward to connecting with you outside of the conference, little things like that. Was there a person that maybe you're like, oh, I didn't get a chance to talk to this presenter because they were swamped after the presentation? How can I make it a point to connect with them at another time during this time that we're here? And then again, each day is a new one. If you don't make new connections or find incredible content in the sessions on the first day, the next day is an opportunity to engage in a different way and figure out what's going to work best and how you are going to be able to engage in the way that you want to engage.
All right, we're going to go ahead, and if you have any questions or any comments, please go ahead and put those in the chat, and we'll go ahead and answer questions or mention those thoughts or suggestions that you have. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move into more of the NWACUHO specific things.
Great. So if you are looking at the screen, that is the general website link to register for the conference, as well as all of the kind of information that you need as an overview. We will make sure to post all of these links in the description box after the webinar so that you can easily click them as hyperlinks. So just a quick overview of the schedule. This year, NWACUHO is using the Sketch app. It's an app as well as an online based scheduling tool. And so we've put a couple of screenshots based on how we see it. This link will be sent out to all of the participants very soon. But it is a neat tool because you can sort the presentations and the schedule based on the programming tracks. And as you can see, this year we have a variety of programming tracks from facilities management, operations, residence life, universal practice, diversity and social justice. And it has some really great and just kind of easy to use tools. So if you look on the kind of upper right, that's a screenshot of what one of those searches for social justice programming looks like. And you can also select those various sessions to put in your schedule. And it tells you the presenter, and you can click on them and it'll expand and it'll give you the bio and the presentation kind of overview and abstract. So I've really enjoyed playing around in this app. There is also a way to search for who's attending as well as who's presenting and what institutions they're coming from. And so I think it's a very user-friendly tool that will help us stay connected during the conference. There is also just a single page overview of the general schedule on the NWACUHO website. So if you just need that one pager to tell you sort of the main points, it's not going to be something that shows you what presentations are happening, but more helps you plan your day of this is session track 1 and that type of information. There's also pre-conferences that are happening, and we have a link to an article that the Professional Development Committee for NWACUHO wrote a couple of years ago, just encouraging folks to attend pre-conferences. These are just spaces that you can gain extra knowledge in specific themes. Andrew, do you know off the top of your head what those themes are this year?
For the pre-conference?
Yes.
Sorry, y'all. I'm managing a lot of spaced out there for a second looking at other things. I believe it's all around the art sessions or advisor resource training from Northwest NWACUHO. There's also an SHO roundtable or question time, as well as, I believe, facilities and operations kind of roundtable or time to discuss different things that you would like to get feedback on or have questions about within that kind of side of student affairs and housing and residence life. I did have another comment here from Laura. Laura said that the Sketch app doesn't update sometimes unless you log out and log in from the app again. So make sure to do that when you know there's updates. Well, I'm sure the board of directors will announce when there's updates, so make sure to log back out and then log in to get the updates on that app.
Right. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and move into meet and greets. Northwest NWACUHO. I've never been to a conference that's had so many different times to just socialize and connect with a lot of people. One of the first ones when I first went, my first one was Alaska or Anchorage, which I think was 2016. It's been a while. I can't remember all of them now. But the first thing I went to was the New to Northwest NWACUHO welcome. And that was a time where the board came in, gave a lot of more in-depth information about the upcoming conference and what's happening and what to get involved with. Our state and provincial reps came in and also gave different ways to get involved within the region or how you can keep giving back to the region, which was really cool. And then, from there, we broke into some state and provincial meet and greets. And so if you're from the Alaska or Yukon area or the British Columbia, Alberta, Washington, Oregon, and so you can meet other people from the institutions around your state or province that are also there, which is a great time to get to know some of those people. Our Northwest NWACUHO Connections event provides an opportunity for new professionals to connect with senior housing officers in the region. This is something that I did my first year, which was right around after that New to Northwest NWACUHO welcome. I really got to get me to know like the SHOs and what they're working at their institutions and what advice they had when you're first attending, which was really cool to kind of see people that are higher up maybe within our profession giving back and like giving advice to those who are new. So if you're a new professional or new to the region, come to this event and learn about the SHO journey. So if you're thinking about even going further within the profession, this is something that you'll want to take advantage of. The night on the town kind of changes every year. What I've noticed is that the board is really, or the local arrangements committee has really tried to make it specific to the area. I know at Alaska and at Anchorage, we did karaoke. Last year in Victoria, British Columbia, we did music bingo because that was something that really was big in that area. And so it's always kind of cool to kind of go to those events, see what the region is really interested in. This year, it looks like it's going to be trivia, and it's hosted by Geeks Who Drink. That's me, so I think I'm going to be attending that one. All three of us are attending, so if you want to get to know us or meet us there and want to have some networking, I think all three of us would be great people to introduce yourself at. And then the business meeting happens on the last day, I believe, unless I'm remembering really wrong. But that's a good way to know like what's going on within the region, our new elected officials, our budget, any voting stuff that we need to finish up, I think will be happening there. And then we have a closing reception.
With the business meeting, I have learned so much by challenging myself and attending business meetings. Sometimes people look at them and they say, I don't have voting rights. It's a long meeting. I just want to go do something else. I have learned so much at business meetings from what Andrew was talking about with elections and kind of what's going on within the region or the association that you're attending for, but also just learning some of those other pieces of how do elections work and what does this look like and what are some of the topics and initiatives that are, really at the forefront of what the attendees at this conference are looking at. So there's my plug for business meeting.
And the last closing reception, I've always find fun because that's the time that we give a lot of rewards out, and so you can kind of see who are the people that are kind of stepping up or moving forward within our region, which is kind of cool. And you can go connect with them and get to know them a little bit more.
And just to plug some of those socials and meet and greets, most of those first kind of 3 bullet points are all happening that Monday evening and afternoon. It's all scheduled so that you don't have to choose a session over going to this social or a meet and greet. So it's really a great time to just kick off your conference experience, meet some new people, meet your rep. I have found really great value in just attending those. And even if you just traveled in and so you're still maybe feeling out how you're going to approach the conference, go sit in the back, and you're not going to be required to speak if you don't want to, but it's just a really great time to meet people and step outside of your comfort zone.
So the other two things that I'm going to talk about are the challenge and the case study. Case study, pretty similar to other case studies you've probably seen at other conferences. If you haven't, this year, you're going to be putting yourself in the SHO or the senior housing officer role, and you're going to be on a team to navigate a challenging situation involving student safety, institutional reputation, and more. What's really nice about this case study is you don't have to come with a team. You don't have to find someone else. Like once you show up, we're going to assign you other people or assign you a group so that you can work with those people. You get assigned on the first night. I believe you present the next morning. So Monday night, you'll get assigned a group. You can work that night. Great way to meet new people and new professionals, and then you're going to move into that next morning and present. So you don't have to type up a big long thing or anything like that and present it or turn it in. It's more of a presentation style, so you'll be able to do that in the moment. You will get a certificate and recognition as the 2019 Case Study Champions if you are the winner of the case study. And the panel of judges is usually people, senior housing officers, or board members that are around the region. So that's a great way to kind of get your name out there and get to know those people. The mid-level challenge, this is something that I'm going to take advantage of this year because I finally feel like ready for it, which is not at all. You don't have to be ready. You can be a new person. Anyone is welcome to do this. But I haven't seen this mid-level challenge at any other conference or any other region I've ever been at within NWACUHO, which is really cool. And maybe it is at other regions. We took it from someone. I don't know. I've just never seen it before. But it's open to everyone. There's a hypothetical situation where you create a housing program or like a residential curriculum. So if you are a mid-level professional or professionals aspiring to obtain a mid-level position, you'll be presented with a hypothetical situation, which you will be asked to create a housing program, including the renovation of a residential facility, and you'll be asked to select products and services showcased by our exhibitors during the conference. So not only are you getting to network with other people from around the region, you're going to get to go and meet the exhibitors and work with them a lot more intentionally, which I think is something really cool and something that we really bring in that collaboration with our exhibitors so that you can, if you end up becoming the SHO and you're the person who's getting to make the decisions about who you're going to go with for a new building or what furniture you're going with, you're going to have some of those connections already because of this event.
And just to plug, if you choose not to participate in these challenges or the case study presentation, you can still go and watch those presentations as a audience member. And it's really great to be able to listen to how people thought through those challenges or how people decided to piece things together. I also want to plug, we didn't really mention this in our other slides, but there are exhibitor breaks and different informal times to engage with our exhibitors, vendors, the folks that are around a large space that you can talk to about maybe the software that your institution uses or the furniture that you all have. And so maybe you're not somebody that can make those purchasing decisions, but it's sometimes fascinating to talk to the vendors and really just get to know how they work, what they do, which I think is a unique aspect of the mid-level challenge because it gives you sort of a guided way to approach and talk to the exhibitors, but don't hesitate to just approach and talk to them and learn more about some of those things. Maybe if you don't use something at your current institution, you might move to another institution where they do use that program or that software. So,
and the mid-level challenge, I believe you don't need a group. Someone might correct me on that. Sorry, but it is also that Tuesday morning, nothing else is going on besides exhibitor break. And so you're not missing sessions to get involved with this. Laura also mentioned here that we've had new professionals do mid-level challenge because they've done enough case studies. It's truly open to all, and exhibitors are great to learn from and talk to. Oh, and Laura also just said you don't need a group, but you'll find someone to work with, which is great. Thank you, Laura.
Great. So the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for Northwest NWACUHO hosts an Affinity Social at each conference. This year's will be Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 p.m. and it will be in the schedule. Unlike maybe some of the larger regions or larger conferences that you've been to, our Affinity Social is a single space for all those that identify within underrepresented, marginalized, minoritized identities. So again, it's not a single identity space. It is intersectional and inter-identity for everyone to come. We will have snacks, refreshments, hors d'oeuvres, and our menu is mainly going to be vegetarian, vegan, and gluten-free. And in this space, we use it as a informal opportunity to connect with others that share your identity or maybe experiencing similar feelings within the region or within your institutions. It's a wonderful time just to meet others that maybe you wouldn't necessarily get to meet at your institution, or folks that hold your identity that are within our region, and to create connections. Generally, there are informal conversation starters that the committee will try to provide so that folks don't just show up and don't know what to do. But again, this is a very informal and structured space for you to find the people and the company that you need after a long day of conferencing. This year, the committee is working on a more interactive, engaging piece around just reflecting on your own experiences and healing and senses of burnout. And so more to come for that. They're very excited for us to create some artifact that a Northwest NWACUHO can display and for you all to find connections with. So again, just as to reiterate, unlike other spaces and larger conferences, these aren't broken up into identity-specific spaces. It is one large group space. Great. And on that train, the Diversity and Inclusion Committee for Northwest NWACUHO also creates some guides for the conference. So if you're somebody that is traveling that may need some accommodations, or you want to find spaces within Portland or the host city that will accommodate what you need, whether that's dietary, vision, mobility, we have an accessibility guide, which is, we have a small screenshot of it to the left on this screen. We will also post the link in the description, and the public accessible links are also on the Northwest NWACUHO website already. So some of these are just links to accessibility information for the various airlines in the area, as well as some of the restaurants that may have Braille menus, or some of the attractions that are wheelchair accessible. And so we try to find a lot of that information so that you don't have to. On the right, we also have a guide that's more identity specific. So if you're trying to find maybe safe and affirming spaces within Portland for your identity, whether that is racial, ethnic, religious, LGBTQIA. So you will find some of that information. Specifically, I wanted to highlight February is Black History Month, and so there are some really great events happening around Portland that are celebrating Black history. And so there is a Black History Northwest Festival link that you can find. So feel free to take advantage of that. These sites have a lot of really great information around identity-specific information. And again, we will make sure that those are in our description, but these are also available on the conference website already.
All right, so at this time, we're going to go ahead and allow for some questions. I do know from when we're talking and when you're actually seeing, hearing, or reading it, that there's a little bit of a lag, so we'll maybe, if anyone has any other last minute tips while we wait for any questions to come in. I am going to put the feedback form, if you have any feedback for us, or the First Friday webinars into the chat here so that you can fill it out.
Maybe last general tip, if you're new to Northwest NWACUHO, we are, our conference is a little bit smaller. And so it's really great to be able to engage with people and see familiar faces. I disclosed I'm an introvert earlier. I find this conference is a very manageable one to interact and engage with. And I think you'll find a lot of people that are open to connecting with you. And so if you're joining us in a couple of weeks, we're excited to have you, and we can't wait to get to know you. And as Andrew said earlier, if you want to talk to any of the three of us, we will be there.
I'm 6'8", so like you shouldn't miss me. But if you do, I have a beard and I'm tall, so probably won't be a whole lot of other people, but we'll see.
And I just wanted to reiterate again that conferences can be kind of scary. They can be nerve-wracking. They can be intimidating at times. And I just want you to know that you're going to make your own experience. And it's okay if your experience and how you engage looks different from other people. I know people that attend conferences that wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and do yoga and work out. And for me, that's not a manageable thing. I need to sleep until like the last possible moment so that I am energized enough. So it's going to look different for everyone. And it's definitely okay if you're attending conferences for the first time, or maybe you're looking to engage in a different way, talk to people who have gone to conferences and ask those questions, and feel okay knowing that people are willing to share that information with you and talk with, what their approach is. And maybe you can get some tips and tricks from other people.
I have a few last comments here. Laura said that the work the Diversity and Inclusion Committee has done for local conference accessibility guides is fairly unique, but an amazing aspect of planning travel. Thanks for doing that guide and sharing. Shelley then also said, I agree with what Laura shared. Great work, Division and Inclusion Committee. Shelley's our current president, I believe, at Southern Oregon University as well. And then Shelley also said, we will be selling copies of the Northwest NWACUHO Common Read Book at the conference. Tiffany, since you're on that, would you like to maybe highlight that a little bit?
Yes, yeah. This year, new to Northwest NWACUHO is we are trying out a common read. We will be having a session at the conference that discusses the book White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. And so if you are someone that's read the book, if you have time to read it before the conference, or if you've just read a few pages of it, come to that session. You can have a great discussion with us. We also have a Slack group for informal discussion and engagement so that you don't have to be at the conference, or you don't have to have read the book by the conference to engage. And we can also put that link in the description box.
I am sorry, Shelley. Western Oregon. Shelley's at Western Oregon. I misspoke. Laura does have a question for us. Can you all talk about your personal packing strategies for the conference, attire, things you're always bringing, etc.? Like how you look at the schedule to know what to bring.
I always bring comfortable shoes because I have always found that, like I said, it's more expansive than I ever expect, and I'm kind of bouncing all over the place. So for me, if my feet are uncomfortable, I'm just a miserable human. So I try to do that. I think something is also looking at what the weather is going to be like. And also knowing if you are someone who gets chilly easily, if you're someone who is kind of running warm all the time. A lot of times our conference spaces will run a little bit colder than what some people's offices and spaces may be like. So I know a lot of people will look to pack an extra layer, but I'm always looking to pack layers that I can take off because I run generally warm.
I will say for Northwest NWACUHO, I'm more of a business casual. I don't think we're a super professional dress. I know kind of at the last closing reception, people might dress up a little bit more. That's really kind of up to your preference. At some of the more national conferences or bigger conferences I've gone to, sometimes I'll bring like a suit and tie or anything like that. But usually I'm with Nichole on this of I'm moving around so much that I don't like to wear so much, and I'm always running hot as well. So I pack sometimes a little bit lighter than I think most people do.
Yeah, I would say as someone who also has been to a few of the Northwest NWACUHO conferences, you can definitely wear whatever you are comfortable wearing. As Andrew mentioned, that closing reception does tend to be a little bit more of a dressier event. But another thing that I would encourage you to do is talk to your department about kind of what their expectations are and how you present in the space. Sometimes different departments want you to be dressed a little bit, differently and that kind of thing. But I am one of those habitual overpackers. And so I like to know that I have everything I need. I think a big piece for me is making sure I have any painkillers in case I start to get a headache or in case chronic pain comes up. I always have a water bottle. There's usually opportunities to fill up with water jugs in each of the presentation rooms and spaces. But I will usually have a messenger bag, and that way I have space for a notebook and all of the kind of things that I will need. But as Nichole said, I'll reiterate layers. It's really important for me to feel comfortable. And so I'll usually bring a blazer, but I'll have a top that I can take the blazer off. And so kind of dressy to less dressy.
I always bring a sewing kit. If that was what you were going to say. I always somehow manage to get a hole in my clothes where there's not supposed to be a hole. And so I always, if you're at NWACUHO and need a sewing, let me know. I'll have one on me.
I usually bring one of those as well.
Yeah. Yep.
I also think as you're looking for what do I bring to sessions, you'll want to, if you have business cards or some way that you can share your information out to people, you'll want to have that. You'll want to look at if you're someone who takes notes on a laptop, on a tablet, if you're a pen and paper type of person, bringing those things with you, and then also bringing whatever types of chargers you may need. There's usually outlets in all of the rooms, but like with airports, those get used up really quickly. So if you have charger blocks that you're comfortable using, things like that, making sure that you have those. That is also something where I have built connections with people because I have forgotten those things. And I find the habitual overpackers, the Tiffany's, and I will say, hey, do you have this? Can I borrow it? I'm running low on power for this. So that's another just unique way to connect with people.
Come find me. I will have a charger.
And I can't stress enough about meeting with either the people you're going with or your supervisors. I think Laura brought it up, and Tiffany, and maybe Nichole as well, of just like, what are the expectations around you going to conferences? That's something I've always found very helpful for me, of like past institutions I've been at, we're all wearing the same thing when we travel together, and that's how they want to travel and have that uniform front. And then, the WC, we're a little bit more relaxed than that. But like still having that general knowledge of, alcohol consumption, what are the dress codes, or what do they expect out of you session wise? Like, are you all going to different sessions? Are you all going, trying to collaborate together to make other things happen? It just kind of depends. So I would definitely stress that meet with your supervisor and other people going, so you kind of have a game plan of what's going to happen before you get to the conference.
Yeah, and on a separate note, I do just want to acknowledge that being able to attend a conference is a privilege, and not all folks at institutions are able to attend conferences, or they're not able to go frequently, which is why Andrew and Nichole brought this up earlier, but tweeting or following things on social media are a great way to stay connected if you're not able to attend a conference in person. And so if you are and you're comfortable tweeting, that's a great way to share the knowledge into the space and into our region for folks that may not have been able to attend this year. As well as if you're somebody that is not at the conference, following the hashtag NWACUHO on various social medias, asking some questions, or if you know someone at your institution who's presenting, maybe having them start their presentation with, hey, everybody, like, tweet as you're able. We know that it is a financial privilege to attend a conference and have institutional support. And so there's still incredible ways to engage in a conference space while you're not present.
And NWACUHO offers out a lot of different free opportunities. These webinars every month. The Diversity and Inclusion Committee has a diversity and inclusion toolkit that you can look up different professional development things that you can go through yourself. And just like getting involved with any of those committees is a great way to keep connected with people as well as push yourself professionally. And I think with that, seeing no other questions, we're gonna go ahead and sign off for today. Like I said, I did put that form for any feedback in the question or in the live chat. But we did get another comment here. It's from Laura. It's a great idea to bring a list of ideas or content back to your supervisor and plan a way to share what you learned with relevant people, recap brown bag lunch, or do some short presentations at a meeting. Great idea, Laura. That's something that we usually do here at our institution as well. That way you're not just going to the conference, you're bringing it back and hopefully helping other people get that professionalism as well. This also shows your supervisor, this is from Laura, that you're looking for ways to share the investments, money that they've spent for you to attend. But I think with that, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. We'll see you next month for the for the First Friday webinar.